This is Calabash TV, and we're happy to welcome to our studios a very good friend of ours. We haven't spoken for a while, and that says so much about our friendship. But this friendship is pretty solid. Kentillia, welcome to Calabash TV.
Thank you for having me, for 2020, yes.
Yes, certainly good to see you, and all the best for 2020.
To you as well.
It's a nice round number. I can imagine a marketer's dream, but there's a lot of things that we can do. It's a leap year as well, so it's quite a year of opportunity.
Definitely.
For all of us. And you're here to talk, normally when we talk is theatre.
Yes.
That we speak about, and especially young since schools getting involved in theatre. And this year we, as usual, you're always involved in Nobel Laureate activities. Yes. And obviously we have yet another celebration of our Nobel Laureates. And you are up to your neck involved this time again. So talk to us about this time. I know you talk about the Walcott Schools Festival. It's into its 6th year.
Yes.
So just give us a quick flashback on the past 6 years. How did you see it developing, and how satisfied are you with how things have turned out over those 6 years?
Okay. I started off the festival because I recognized about 6 years ago for a conversation that there really wasn't any activity geared towards young persons being exposed to the works of the Walcott family, and also an opportunity annually for young persons to view quality productions that were geared for youth, so youth performances, and be involved in the production of those things. So we are very much about creative industries at St. Lucia. We are St. Lucia's are performers, but you have to nurture it. You have to give a ground, an avenue for it to develop, and so that is why we created this. Spoke to Derek Walcott, at the time, and he was all for it, and that's how we started off.
Now you mentioned the Walcott family. I know Roderick and Derek is there, and the Walcott. Are we supposed to know about?
Well, there's when I speak of the Walcott family because
so
they were all they were all educators. So the brothers were a product of their mother. Alex Walcott. We know that we have a school named after her, and they were all involved in, as I said, education and ensuring that they had a very a soft spot for young persons. So I think when I say the Walcott family, the way their philosophy, about how it is we should develop as young persons, I think that is part of what is in there when I see the Walcott family. But of course, between both brothers, they have been involved in, or they were involved in all art forms. And so I like that aspect of it as well. So it's not just traditional theatre, but it opens up itself, the festival, to the involvement or the integration of other art forms. So, for example, we had started off with the TVET unit, the Visual Arts TVET unit, and the students started off with getting involved in the Walcott Festival by creating interpretations of poetry and plays of Sir Derek Walcott, Roderick Walcott, whatever it is we were focusing on. So it was the year before. There's some lovely pieces that they did based on Tija and his brothers. They've done some based on the fire, Cities Death by Fire. So, and out of that now, the TVET unit has an annual exhibition that happens every time around this time. And, so that is, for me, all part of the Walcott legacy, and when I say the Walcott family and what it is, I think they would want to see happen.
So as you mentioned the legacy, I know we're jumping all over the place.
Yes.
But the key thing we want to promote is on the 17th is the big day of the production.
Yes.
So keep in mind, viewers, that the 17th that you have to be at the National Cultural Center for this big production. We'll talk a little bit about it. And also the 16th, the day before, is the day you're having a discussion on the legacy. Yes.
Now that is, I've invited a few stakeholders because we're 6 years in. And it's always good to take a moment and say, okay, what's happening? What do we mean? And I've realized that from having discussions from various persons. What do we mean when we say the Walcott legacy? St. Lucia's identity is very closely tied to the legacy of the Walcotts. But what does that mean? Is it just Derek? Is it Roderick? Is it, as you said, everything I said, or is it just about the performer? What exactly do we want that to mean? And I think especially when you are working on an activity like this or a program like this, it's very important to ensure every now and again you take time and make sure you're on the right track. you know, because you're trying to help to strengthen the grounds for the next set of Derricks and Rodricks who are coming up.
We must say as well that CAMDU and the Nobel Laureate Committee are behind all of this. You're the face, you're fronting.
Yes.
And can very, very ably so as well. You've been doing that for quite a long time. We associate you with, especially the school's art. So talk to us about this year now. Talk to us a little bit about the focus for this year's production.
Okay, for this year's production, we're working with Youth Spark, and they, along with the Catrice Comprehensive Secondary School, their dance department, we are putting on a production called a Walcott Collage Seascapes. The sea is a major theme, major motif in the work of Sir Derrick Walcott. And so what we have done is to pull together some excerpts of various works, such as Omeros, the Sea at Dauphin, the Schooner's Flights, various pieces, and using drama, dance, music, song, show how there's a connection between them all. And as we said, that connection is the sea. And the sea means different things. In each case, Walcott explores the relationship with the sea in a different way. And we are really gearing to, well, this is really for students of, well, I mean, it's for everybody, but really, you know, students of literature and theater, to see some of the metaphors and the images that they may have read about come alive, you know, on a stage. Yes.
Excellent. All right. So it's put on the 17th. We want to make sure we keep reminding people of the dates so you can show up, because we always keep talking about support.
Yes.
And especially the youth involved, they do need your support as much as possible. So while you're speaking, you were talking about the legacy and so on. And it's interesting, even before the interview, you mentioned that the Walcotts love musicals.
Yes.
So there's music is a key part of it.
Yes.
Obviously, they love our festivals.
Oh, yes.
As well.
Definitely.
So talk to us about that aspect of it in terms of, are we likely to see some of that in that production as well?
Yes, we will, because you can't do the work of Sir Derrick without music, nor Roderick as well. So in some cases, we have put in our own songs to make it more relevant and to connect with today's youth. But you find, if you ever take a moment to read a lot of his work, he has written quite a number of songs. Can have a whole couple of albums just based on the songs from the plays of Sir Derrick. And so it's a major thing. Even too, I find there's a musicality in terms of, especially his poetry and how it's written. And sometimes, especially talking about the sea, you read and you can hear all the, you know, the sounds, and it takes you to that place. So that is a major part of what he made sure, I think what made him great, you know, because all your senses, well, most of your senses, I should say, are in some way, you know, awakened by being part of his work and being, you know, close to it. And one of the things that I like about his work and is that he made St. Lucians or Caribbean people epic characters, you know, and made us, you know, be able to be seen as, you know, very, you know, archetypal characters, like some of those, you know, you think of the Oedipuses and so on and so forth. We have some of those characters in there. I like the way that he has built them and made things that we take for granted, again, like the sea, you know, and shown how the sea's history. That is where all our monuments, our martyrs and all, it's in the sea. And it makes you think, just that line from that poem, what does that mean? And that actually is the opening piece that we do. It's from that poem, and then we go into the other pieces.
So these are the pieces. Are they written by Walcott? Are they written by...
All are written by Walcott. So they are excerpts from all.
And both brothers, or just one brother for this
one? Just
one?
one brother for this one. If we had to do, and we couldn't do all of the pieces. We had to select who would be here, you know.
For the next 6 weeks.
Yes, we would be. So we took some that I think are iconic, and I wanted to make sure we had a range of sides of the sea or relationships that can be seen in one production. So you get to laugh You get to cry, you get to cringe, you get to roll your eyes, you know, through it. And I think that's what is important in a true production, to make sure that you try as much to engage your audience's emotional palette as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. So how are, I know the youth in this era of distraction, how are they responding? Because that's, you're doing an intergenerational work there, connecting generations. How are they responding to it, and what kind of satisfaction, joy do you see them getting from it?
Okay. One of the things, of course, I'm very happy about is that for some of them it's the first time reading or understanding the work of Sir Derek. And so they're like, he wrote that, this and that. And then some of the themes or the characters, they'll tell you, yeah, I know somebody like that. Don't mind it was written, you know, before their time. Oh, yes. Oh, that's what that means. Oh, yeah, we just still do that. So the connections, as much as you may feel you have different time period. And that's the thing about good work. You know, there are situations and characters that you can relate to now. And so I see a lot of that happening, you know, with them, which is very interesting. And of course, they want to know more and see more and do more. And yes, very happy about that.
I know it's called the Walcott Schools Festival. Do the students at some point in time, or as part of the developmental plans, do they get a chance to probably do some writing themselves?
So that's one of the reasons, again, we're having the symposium, and I'm looking at the way forward, is that I would like the festival to develop. And of course, with that always comes the question of funding and supports. I have to say the ministry has always been very good about allowing students to participate. But in terms of development, we need it to be more than just every January we get a day. You know, the day should be the beginning of something, or a culmination of, you know, activities on the program. That's where I think is the next step for this. Again, one of the things I recognize with this festival, it is the only regional festival that happens annually, which is get at young persons in the performing arts. And that is something that can really be developed here in St. Lucia. I've had requests by other countries to visit and, you know, be part of it, and how can they be involved. Last year, we had a group from Trinidad and Tobago who came just for the festival, so the students could see what was going on. They were very excited, and they wanted to come again and said, and we can do stuff, and, you know, and so forth. So there's all of that happening, because I've always said this, we complain about young persons, but they need to be given something. And all I see around me dealing with the Walcott Schools Festival are excited young persons who want to do more, you know, and learn more, and bring themselves to the next level. And I think that has to be the way forward.
All right, so let's talk about some of the people who are behind the scenes in terms of people involved in the music, people involved in directing, and give us an idea. Choreography, I'm sure there's quite a lot of that.
Yes. So I have to say, of course, a special thanks to, again, Cashi's Comprehensive and Miss Iva Satney, who's always up to the challenge, and her students at Comprehensive. I've been working with them off and on, and they're always give 110%, and very happy about that. That school has a program which is very much, I think, one of the ideal programs where the students are engaged in activities outside the classroom and really get a real feel for the creative industries in the area. I also want to say thank you to, of course, Ms. Zenith Williams, who's always, when it comes to our costumes, and saying to her, this, and this idea, yeah. And then it you know, it comes to play, you know. We have, of course, Miss Crystal Valsin, who is a member of Youth Spark, who is the one pulling together all the music. We have persons, of course, like Crystal Lee, Anthony Wilkie, who are practitioners and giving their all during this time to make sure that we can have a great production. If I have to mention all the names of everyone, I will be here for a while. I want to, of course, we have one of your own as our lighting person, you know, Randolph, coming on to help us to make sure that we create this magical world.
And I was worried about the gender balance too.
Yeah. yes.
He represents.
You know, just to represent, yes, you know. I have a beautiful young stage manager, you know, Renel. He's been with us for a while, and now to see him taking this mantle up and being very impressed, you know, doing his own thing, and So a lot of, as you can see, different persons, different generations coming together, working with me. Yes, I am directing this year, and of course, as usual, all of this would not be possible without Dame Walcott Louis, and I have to say a special thanks to Mrs. Le Corbinier, who keep me on track. And what are you doing? Where is it? What's happening? And so on. And no matter what, always support and help to find a way to make it happen. The Chief Education Officer, Mrs. Fiona Meyer, she has come on board and recognizes the importance of a festival like this. And, making sure that, yes, what do you need? Yes, you need, invitations, this, that. So, and that is an important aspect to a production as well. You need that support. You need to make sure that your front of house as well as what's happening on stage is all together. So we have, as you can see, a number of persons coming together and making sure it works.
Once you're involved in it, it works. Things will happen. So that's the Walcott Schools Festival. It's into its 6th year. It's happening on the 17th of January at the National Cultural Center. Is this a one-off showing?
It's a one-off showing. We're thinking of doing it in the evening, but
Oh, so what time is it? You mentioned
1 p.m.
1 o'clock.
1 p.m. contribution $5. And as we said, afterwards, we always like to have a conversation because it's educational. We're not just doing this just for you to have a performance. Yes, we want to expose persons to the works of the Walcotts, but we also need the dialogue. It's very important. The questioning, and that's where, sometimes a student is on two minds. Is this for me? Or as you said, as a writer, wants to ask a question, and one of us on stage or part of this can give them the answer they need to say, yeah, okay, I was on the right track, or this is what I want to do. So it's open to, as I said, everybody to come and enjoy and to have this experience with us.
Just a quick shout out. Is it where you have lead characters or it's all in?
It's all in. I can't do lead characters, but I mentioned some Anthony Wilkie, I mentioned Colby DeVoe, Stephiane, St. Clair, Paz, Paz, Rohan, Louis, yes, in fact, Cutney, Christian, Olivia, yes, who am I forgetting? I hope I will, Tiana, and Kyla, all of them,
It's a large cast, or it's a...
It's about, let's say, 12 to 15 persons, yes, and yeah, a nice grouping, working together and getting it done. So they all come in and giving their all.
Okay, so it's on the 17th. Just remind us of the name of the production again.
17 is called a Walcott Collage Seascapes. Yes, and based on the work of Derek Walcott, National Cultural Center, contribution is $5. It's at 1 o'clock, and I think it will be a very interesting production.
Most definitely. And we'd like to wish you all the best for 2020. I know 2019 was a very challenging year for you.
Yes, yes.
And you survived that.
Yes, I have.
And looking forward to 2020.
Yes.
In your white and white and bright colors.
Yes.
It's going to be exciting. So again, the 17th of January at the National Culture Center, we want other students to come out. We also want parents and the general theatre fraternity to come support this production that's been put on for a Nobel, as part of the Nobel Laureate Festival.
Yes.
And it's CAMDU and the Nobel Laureate Committee involved in putting this on as usual. So Kentillia, it's good to see you and all the best for 2020.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. This is Calabash TV. We appreciate you being here. Join us again for another discussion on the arts and so many other key areas of national development.
This is The Reality Show.